Hi Flosstube and Instagram friends. Welcome back to my channel, Contented Needleworker Kim. Today is October 20, 2025, and this is Flosstube number 98, although this is actually a Flosstube extra, because today I'm going to share with you the WIPs that I plan on continuing on with, and there will be, I went through everything when I was preparing, and I did set aside a few that were I'm not sure about, maybe they didn't have enough progress to share and that kind of thing. So there are roughly 60 plus WIPs that I'm gonna talk about today. And I'm gonna save the statistics for the end of the year because it's really only October and I know that there will be more finishes. So I'm also planning on doing a finish parade, I guess, of all the things that I have finished in the year 2025. And I'll do that a little bit later. Obviously, we don't have that many more months, but I'm going to wait and see if there's a few more I can squeak across the finish line because I know that there will be. And I have roughly 40 new starts so far for this year 2025, but I also have had roughly 30 finishes. So I think every year I'm creeping up a little bit in WIPs, but I'm also managing to stay about the same. So just a couple of fun facts, more like I said, for my record keeping than for anything you really care about. There is no order. I started out thinking maybe I'd do newer at the bottom and then work up, but at some point along the line that all did not happen. So we're just going to go ahead and pull them from this stack and move them to that stack. And then we'll just, and I have a few on Q snaps that I also didn't take off the Q snaps. So there's a few in the basket. So I think that's everything in the way of what you can expect to see. And I'm typically a 40 or 36 count linen. That is my go-to. Majority is 40 count, and there's a couple of 46 projects in here as well. I will tell you the fabric when it just comes to me, and if not, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. And so if there's something particular that you see that you want to see, I mean, fun things, right? So if you want to see more of that WIP, more progress on that WIP, or you're stitching that and we can stitch it together, different things like that, you know, go ahead and feel free to leave me comments below. And I can't promise you I know all the information. A lot of the flosses, another thing I do is I make a lot of substitutions. So substitution might be because I don't have the called for floss and I really want something comparable, or I don't have the color scheme. I don't want to use that color scheme and I want to change it. And lately I've been really loving changing things to a lot of blues and pinks. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one right on top is Katherine Reese, and it is by 1897 Schoolhouse Samplers. Started this as a birthday start with my friend Renee, Prairie Stitcher 515. She is one of the wonderful friends that I have that I stitch a lot of things with her. So you will hear me mention Renee time and again. And that is another thing that I really, really enjoy is stitching with friends. So I have a lot of these things that are what we call SALs, stitch alongs, or sometimes start alongs, and I do have a couple more that are coming up here pretty soon, so I'm really excited about that as well. All right, so this is 40 count Embarrassed from Kitten Stitcher, and I did make changes to the flosses, probably most of them. There's a combination of silks and cotton overdyes, which is another thing that I do regularly. I don't have a problem mixing them, and I do use a lot of the different silks that are out there. Mostly I think a lot of it is color driven, but I also have my favorites, which at this point in time seem to be pretty regularly Gloriana and Belsois. And I think it's not only the way the silk functions or stitches, it's not a super tight twist, but it's also, they just tend to have a really beautiful wall of silks at the attic and other places that I've been as well. And in the attic, we've dubbed it the best corner in the world. But I go and I just stand and I look at all the beautiful colors, and it's so easy to get drawn in and say, oh, there's a pretty pink. Oh, there's a pretty green. And so I have added to my my collection, my stash, my acquisitions little by little over the years. So I have a fair bit of those, and those are the ones I will typically go to. I like the coverage as well on 40 count. All right, so this next one has been in and out of the pile of I like what I've done so far and I want to continue, or I'm not 100% sure, but let's go ahead and share this today. This is Jean Bernard from Calut. Well, this is the name of the company right here. She used to be with Creative Poppy, but now she has her own website. And this is Miriam. I love a lot of her charts. I really recommend that if you're not familiar with this designer, you go and check out all that she has to offer. And she's always coming out with more. I'm planning, as of right now, this has always been the plan, to only stitch to here. Another fun fact about me is that I do not particularly enjoy stitching borders, and I will avoid them when I can. And I often only stitch portions of the sampler, which is typically what I stitch also. Is I really love samplers, birds, things with houses. So it's not unusual for me to leave things off. And another quick reminder, I have in my playlist, I have why I attach the fabric to my pieces, and also how I use my Apple books, my iBooks, how I cut down thrifted frames with my miter saw. So there's a few videos over there if you'd like to go and check those out. This is on Caramel by Seraphim Fabrics. And I did make some substitutions. I do believe I used some silks on this, as well as perhaps DMC or cotton over dyes. Made some color changes as I went along. It's been a long while since I have pulled this out, so I cannot be 100% on what all I did. But I have a large piece of fabric. Sometimes if I don't need it for anything, I will just leave it until I decide how much I'm stitching, and then I will cut it off at the end. So yeah, this has been sitting in the pondering pile for a while now. It hasn't gotten any attention this year, at least. I don't remember last year. I think the oldest WIPs that I will share with you, a couple, maybe one, maybe two, go back to 2021, and then we move forward. And there are some from 22. I don't remember exactly how it breaks down from there, but I have to reach, hold on. But yeah, there's going to be some older ones, and I think 21 is probably the oldest that we will go. This is another one. So I started this as a Quaker with my friend Renee for her birthday this year, and she's not doing this Quaker, but she's doing one that is a Quaker. And I said, well, I have this one. Will this count? So this is from Rosewood Manor, Karen Kluba, and My Token of Love. I am stitching this on a piece of scrimshaw from Cedar River Linen, and I am using the DMC 3831. It is going to just be one floss color, which is really lovely because, of course, color changes take a lot more time sometimes, but it is Quakers, so I have to be very, very careful with my counting, very exact with my counting. And so far, we're doing all right. Let me think, what else was I going to tell you? Oh, yes, another thing that I know has changed. This is probably the most drastic change from the prior years is I discovered how to work comfortably from a digital, either a PDF that I purchased as a PDF, or I take a picture and upload it again to my Apple books, my iBooks, and I talk about that in the video. So stitching digitally now has made it so much easier for me. I was your paper chart poster girl, so I cannot stress enough how resistant I was to going to anything on my iPad. But the charts were getting more and more difficult for me to see. So that's probably a personal thing. I think some of them are too small as well, but this has taken that out of the equation. And so being able to take a picture and blow it up and be able to see the charts so much, it's so much easier, as well as being able to mark off and not lose my place and not worry about, a pencil mark or a highlighter mark or any of that. That has been really, really, really a wonderful new development for me. And like I said, I talk about that in the video. So huge change, made a big difference. I would just like to recommend that you at least try it. So Jane Hopkins, 1875, is from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. It is very large and mostly full coverage with, of course, just this vase of flowers here. So while I've been working on it fairly steadily, I'll pull it out and give it a good 3 days. It really doesn't feel like you've made much progress. I think as you stand back and look at it little by little, you really will get more gobsmacked by how much progress you do make. And I have a feeling that I'll get to the point where maybe I'll get down to here and I'll really want to just push for that finish, because I'm really excited to see this one as a finish. I know that you will see this already by several floss tubers out there. Karen, the Recovering Monogamous Stitcher. I think this was the birthday start one year for Sarah, handmade by Sarah W. And the reason I got this back out this most recent time, the last few days, is because of my friend Rebecca. Beck Stitches Everything. She had two floral charts that she mentioned were tugging at her. And I said, well, obviously have both of those, let me know. And this is one we had put some time in prior together, and it's really, really motivating. And so I have just loved being able to just do a little direct message with my progress, and Rebecca does the same thing, and it's really motivating to stitch with someone on the same project at the same time. So I made a lot of progress. I don't have before pictures, but let me just tell you, I finished up the rest of this flower, added a little bit to this one, started this one, filled in all these leaves. It really was a good bit of progress. This is a mystery linen, and I do think it's 36 count. Let me tell you, this was a bit of a surprise for me because, as I've mentioned, I'm typically 40 count. I think it's just a combination of the coverage, and I can still see it, but I always have to use my magnifier eyeglasses. I don't use the magnifier on the lamp, although I have some of those, but if I use really good light, if I focus it really well on the project, and I think I'm up to a 4 at this point in the magnifiers, I can see what I'm doing. But I recently pulled out this, which I was working on for a good number of days, and I did the 36 count, that's the back. But when I went to do the 40 count on Katherine Reese, I really struggled for a good portion of the day, to really be able to see the 40. I noticed that I finally, when I pulled it out again this morning for just a real quick stitch, I finally noticed that I could see it a little bit better. So maybe it was just my eyes were more tired. I don't know, but that's meant to be a bit of an encouragement, because I know some of you are like, I just can't see. And you may not, it may not be something you will be able to adjust and see, but I noticed that the 36 was easy and the 40 after the 36 was a little bit more of a challenge for a while. So, I don't know, that was a bit of a surprise to me how long it took me to adjust. So this is a very small start because I went to summer school at the Attic this last August, and this was a chart that we got from summer school. I think this will be coming out for you all to stitch. I'm going to say by market, but of course I don't have any insider information. I just know that the designers, a lot of the Patriotic stitches, they want you all to be able to stitch them and celebrate what we have coming up, the 250 years this next year. So this is America by Plum Street Samplers, and I just got a very small start on the Eagle. I am using the fabric that came in the kit with the flosses that she provided. Can't remember if they're DMCs or overdyes, but it's and I'm sorry, I do not even remember the name of the fabric at this point, but this is what came in. It's the called for on the chart. So when you get this, you can decide. It's a little bit green. I think some of my friends from the retreat, I do know what this is. It's 36 Smoky Quartz by Fiber on a Whim. And some of the stitchers decided that they wanted to change out the linen, and they started there as well at the retreat. And I know that there were some substitutions from that particular linen. So, all right, the next one that I hope Rebecca and I will pull out soon is a Peacock, a Unicorn, a Badger by The Scarlet Letter. And another one that you will see so many people stitching, or some finishes. My friend Diane, the woodpecker's daughter, has a recent finish, and I don't know if it's back from the framer yet, but she's getting it framed at the attic as we speak. Hobbies of Holly. Holly has this as a WIP as well. Carrie, Tiger Lily. My friend Steph, Lake Girl Stitches, another friend that I stitch a lot of things in common with. As well as Holly and I have a fair bit that cross paths. But I am making some really big changes to this one. I initially wasn't sure if I wanted to just stitch this portion, and I would have just put it in a square frame, and I think I would have been really happy with that. I have decided that there were more motifs that I didn't want to lose, so I now am stitching. I'm taking off this bottom part and I'm moving things up. So it's going to be like this with a few of these elements moved around, and I am going to add the water. So it's a little bit hard to tell what all is going to happen by the time this is finished, but it's kind of exciting and a little bit challenging to make those changes as I cut apart. I have a working copy of the chart, and I will cut pieces and move them all around and tape them together and try to see the vision ahead of time. But this is 40 count fossil by Fox and Rabbit with DMCs that are called for, except I may have changed like a brown here or there, the tone of the brown in a very small area if I didn't like what it was looking like on my fabric. So it was a very minor change, because you know, your fabric will affect the color of your floss and how they all play together. So, or maybe I just personally have a certain brown that's not quite my favorite, and so I will change it for whatever reason, or any color. It doesn't have to just be brown. So yes, I'm really happy with how this is looking so far. The challenge I have right now is this corner. I'm not sure how the sky is going to come across because I took out the sun. So you can see that obviously I need to bring across the sky, bubbles, clouds, over to here, but I don't have a lot of room, and so I have to smush them down in some places, which, you know, they do have some of them like that. So this corner, I think we've gotten over to the side. That's as far as it's going to go across. That corner is but I decided just to avoid it for now. And I just moved on to filling in other things. And that way I can continue to make progress. And as I fill in, I will have fewer choices to make with the space that's left over. That's kind of my plan as I sit here right now. We'll see how that goes. I did my best to get everything as close as I could, but some of them are a bit of a stretch. Now, I could not find the cover for this. It's one of those where I took it somewhere, I traveled with it, I know I've seen it recently, but instead of taking the time to look for it, I just decided you can find what it looks like. You are probably familiar with it. It is, I think it's called Joy from Shakespeare's Peddler. That might not be the right name. And this is on 40 count Embarrassed, again, by Kitten Stitcher. I don't plan on stitching the bottom part that says Joy, and I may be changing some of the colors. I really don't remember. Without looking at the cover right now, I don't remember. So, and you know, one of the things I didn't count in my finishes, because I'm only counting stitching, was I made a fair number of project bags, which was new for me again this year, is taking on sewing and trying to get better at it and set up a way that is more enjoyable for me, and that has been successful as well. It's a bit of a mess right now because I moved things around to get ready for this video, and I think I want to redo my hutch, and from time to time I am one of those that likes to move furniture. I can't do it as much now. It's not a smart thing for me to do anymore because it's just not a smart thing for me to do anymore. But project bags and sewing has been added to my list of things that I did differently this year. So this has been such a fun new stitch, a stitch along. We are dubbing, so Elizabeth Metcalf, 1860, is from Rosie in the Rockies. And we have dubbed her Lissy, Lissy, as a fun nickname. There is an Instagram chat group that there's a good number of us in there now, and we are having a blast. Everybody's sharing the colors that they've used, the fabric. There have been some changes. There have been some where, it's the called for. We've done a couple of Zooms. They're always a bit of a last minute thing. My schedule is, even though I'm retired, it's not a static schedule. So I throw it out there, and whenever someone's available, they will jump on. And we've done that a couple of times now, and there will be more in the future. So if you are interested, if you are stitching a Lissy, let us know that, let me or Rosie know that you want to join the chat group on Instagram, and we can add you and you can join us. So I am using Bee's Knees from Seraphim Fabrics. And as of now, I've been using the called for colors. I did talk about how you can't tell the difference between my Dulce de Leche and the eggshell, especially one strand on 40 count. So I will be pulling out one of the colors and leave it the lacy opening in there. I know it is a little bit difficult to see some of the colors as well, but I'm okay with them. I think that they look really pretty on this linen, and I do like the color of this linen. I think Rosie used Straw by Weeks, I'm pretty sure. And there have been a number of wonderful changes, like I've mentioned, in our Instagram chat room. So ladies, I'm having a blast stitching with you. And a couple of Zooms we've done have been just lovely. So I think that's everything. Rosie is working on another reproduction, and so stay tuned for that. She has a floss tube, so watch her floss tube and you can see her progress on that. And that's something I'm looking forward to as well. All right, Anne Johnson, 1832, from Hands Across the Sea Sampler. She has not received any attention, and that is a real shame. I was going to make some changes and move things around, and it's just that I have a plethora of WIPs, and so she somehow got shuffled to the bottom, and that's a real shame, because this is a beautiful sampler. Now, I fell in love with her to the point where it's an exclusive to the Canadian shop, Traditional Stitches. Whew, I was like, it's going to be on here, so I'm drawing a blank. Traditional Stitches, and I purchased the fabric and the chart. I think I'm just using my own flosses because I'm using DMCs. I think that Nicola from Hands Across the Sea Samplers does a wonderful job with her floss color conversions. It's not always an easy thing, and I don't know that we always get a really good conversion. I'm sure that is very challenging, and it takes a lot of time, and I'm very thankful that Nicola is really, really thoughtful and she has very good conversions. And not everything converts. If she's using say a 103 that she has stitched it with and charted it up with, then it might not have a matching DMC color, and she does the best that she can. But you have a lot of options, and I usually will just go with a DMC. Most of the time on my hats, I've used the DMC conversion. So here's where I am so far. I cannot remember if this ended up being Muddy Duck or they switched it to something else. I know there was a little bit of a conversation about that, a changeover, but I actually just do not remember. It's been so long since I pulled it out. So you can tell I am stitching the border, but as I mentioned, I'm planning on moving things around. I have enough fabric to do the whole thing should I decide when I get there. I think the band that I'm just, as of right now, and our tastes change. So I like that I leave the extra fabric on, because as I go back to these and as the years progress, you don't know, maybe I'll be like, you know what, I want to stitch the whole thing. But as of right now, I'm not extremely excited about this little band right here. And I think I was planning on just taking that out, moving things up. I have to revisit it again before I make more decisions, because it has, like I said, it has been a while. I had every intention of stitching this as the Sal. It was going to be a longer than a year Sal. It was going to be a bit broken down so beautifully by either Rose Heck, who was she does the Sals, the stitch along leader for Traditional Stitches. I know Rose Heck either did it or maybe Janice from Traditional Stitches helped, I'm not sure. But they broke it down beautifully. And I have discovered that while I enjoy sales and I enjoy stitching with everyone, I am rubbish at keeping up with any kind of a set schedule. Yeah, that's just not working for me. So I'll try to know that going forward and make sure that if you're going to stitch something with me, you recognize that it's going to be very casual and very much just at our own pace, because that's how I enjoy stitching. So Mary Carr, 1840, saw this beautiful, very large sampler at the attic and just fell in love. While it's a lot larger than I would typically want to take on, I really, really think it's beautiful. So Needlework Press, and this is one that I chose 46 count white clay, which is not the called for. I think it's, here we go, Flannel Flower is the called for, which I couldn't find at the time. So Flannel Flower and white clay are both Fox and Rabbit. And I am using a mixture of things on this. So some of the cotton overdyes, and I mean, let's just leave it at that. As of right now, that's mostly what I'm probably using. I don't know if I've switched it out to other things. There's a lot of dangly threads on this. And, you know, I've talked about that again many a time as to why that is the way I like to stitch. So here we go. This is how far she goes across. I am stitching the border, and I actually am planning on stitching the whole thing at this point. And she just keeps nudging me and nudging me to get some more progress. It's another reason why there are some large samplers that sometimes I will hesitate, because it's just very large, and I know that going forward, that is a harder thing for me to accomplish. So I guess I'm just going to be as particular as I can be. But I'll be honest with you, if something comes out with a beautiful pink house or a big pink flower, or I don't know, it's hard for me to say no. So here we have Little Robin Designs, Grayskill, 1838. Again, it's a very large sampler. And this cat, it's like the size of my fist, which is where I started in the bottom, this corner here, and did this cat first, and haven't decided exactly how much. What I do know is that if I stitch the whole thing, I will be changing the cartouche. I don't like to stitch over one. I do if I really want to, I will make the time to do it. But typically, in addition to that, with the cartouches, it's a perfect opportunity for me to switch out what it says and put scripture. And that is something I do as often as I possibly can, is I will change the sayings, or if it's a person's name, I personalize it with my own family, or again with scripture. So I haven't decided, don't need to decide yet, because I'm still going to be going across the bottom for a while on Grace. So this is Fiber on a Whim. Yep, can't think of it. I know it, can't think of it. So here's the entirety. Isn't this beautiful? And then here is, let me shrink it down a little bit. Here is the kitty cat that I have managed to stitch so far with the fun peacock with the blue feet. Oh, yeah, I wish I could think of it, but I'm not going to take too much time. Like I said, if you really want to know something, you can hunt through my Instagram, which I always try to put the information when I first start something on my Instagram, or watch prior videos, or ask me, and if I know, I will tell you. So Gifts of the Season by Blackbird Designs was also a retreat piece, and the opportunity I had to meet Alma from Blackbird Designs. Oh my gosh, that was such a treat. I'm using the stuff that came with the kit. So this is a Picture This Plus. Is it vellum or velt? I think it might be velt. And it's actually, I actually wish I had changed the linen on this to something more pink. because I think that the pink house and the blue roof, which I think I changed the color of the roof to be a little more blue. Just a personal preference for this. But when you get it all stitched, there won't be a lot of the fabric showing anyway, so. I was mentioning to Lizzie the Stitcher, she has always got some blackbirds on the go, and in her last video she said something about, mentioned something about how many blackbirds you have. I'm like, oh, I've got more than one going as well. No worries there. I love blackbird. Well, all the designers I'm going to share with you are obviously favorites of mine. Okay, Antoanet Carrera, Reflet de Soie, stalled out on this one for various reasons. I wasn't getting the colors that I wanted. So this is one of those where it's charted in Soie d'Alger. There is a conversion to DMC, but when I started stitching the flower at the bottom, I wasn't getting the colors that are on the chart. So I think that stalled me out a little bit. In addition, it's a very large. I had just come off of trying to get the Louisa Barney border done, which was really difficult for me. And I wasn't sure that while this border was one of the things I loved about this so much, in addition to this bird, I actually really enjoy all of these little vignettes, but deciding not to take on this border made me go, how much of this do I want to stitch? Can I leave off the border? Yes, I can. Obviously, I can do a really pretty ornate frame, but there were a number of things that just had me go take a step back. And then, of course, there are the number of WIPs that I have, so there's that. This is on Vintage Navy Bean, I believe, by Lakeside Linen. It's a very large piece, so I have the room. And I did make the changes to the DMC colors on the flower to be more pink. So I can go forward with the changes I've made. I'm fine with that, but I think it was just a matter of pausing and taking some time to think about that. So. All right, I'm trying to make them flat. That's how I like to store. That is how I store my WIPs. So if they can go on a Q-snap and I'm not snapping over anything important, any of the stitching, and I can just comfortably leave them on the Q-snap, then I tend to want to do that if it's something that I'm going to pull out again fairly soon. And then if I decide I run out of Q-snaps, I'll just take something off and move it then. But if they're not on a Q-snap in the basket, then they are in an under the bed box. I got this from Lori, Mischievous Stitches. She had talked about that she bought one of those under the bed boxes with the vinyl zip on top. So it's a linen box. It's about yay tall, and it fits obviously under your bed. And that way my WIPs will all lie nice and flat and they don't get wrinkly. I don't fold them up and put them in my project bags. The project bags hold the chart that I need to stitch from, either the working copy, or sometimes I'll put the cover in there, but a lot of times I keep the covers in a stack separate so that when I do a floss tube, I can go pull the ones that I need. So it might hold, and it'll hold flosses most of the time. Sometimes if they're silks and I know I'm going to need them for other projects, I won't put them in the bags. It really just depends on if it's particularly just for that project. DMCs, they're fine in the bag, but I'm often trying to go and find DMCs to kit up something new, and I only need a little bit. So if they're in the bags, it takes me a lot longer to unzip every bag. And now that I have more and more, it's been taking quite a while. So it's a combination of those things, and that's what will be in the bag. And I think that's as well always kind of one of those things that I'll change around. Work in progress, do it one way, try it another way. There's no right or wrong. So Fox and Rabbit, Margaret Ligertwood, 1765. You will see when Katie Strachan's mom comes to visit, Trisha, when she comes to visit with Katie, she will show her progress on this. And I always like seeing what she's doing and hopefully feeling motivated to pull it out. And I am, but it just hasn't happened in a while. So I started this a while ago and it just hasn't seen any recent attention. So oh, it's so pretty. Really, really love it. I think I saw this on the wall at the attic, and that's what made me fall in love with it. That, you know, models on the wall, they'll get you every time in the best way. This is on a piece of XJU or XJU Designs fabric, Marbled Pointer. So I think it's the perfect linen for this. I really, really love it. Yeah. I will make a few changes to this when the time comes. As I've mentioned, I will change what it says in the cartouche to add scripture, and probably leave off the name at the bottom where it says her name, Margaret Ligertwood, and I don't think I'll be putting in that border. So it's a very simple border, but I don't think it will make a difference. Sometimes borders also, depending on the type of border it is, like if it's a single line all the way around, that can make framing a little more challenging because it can be difficult to get that just perfectly straight. Okay. Oh, goodness sakes. Why is Primrose not finished? Primrose still doesn't have a head. I think it's because I don't love the colors, and so it's not the most exciting to stitch on. And I just save it sometimes for fill in. But recently I took something else, so Primrose still did not get a head. This is an R&R. I don't know if it's a scrap of bee's knees. It was something I just had in my stash, a small scrap of. So here's poor Primrose without a head. I don't know when that's going to happen either, because there are just a lot of other animal crackers that I enjoy more. So like this next one, Lily, so cute. Started this at a retreat and she just hasn't seen any love since then. So she's one that I really would like to pull out. And as well as I still have the Badger, Clovis, and I think I might have a few others, but here's a little start on Lily. And I decided I wanted to do the little skirt like my friend Katie did from So Tattered. This is a piece of Embarrassed, again, from Kitten Stitcher. I bought a big piece and chopped it up. And I think when I went to the retreat, I had pieces all chopped up in different size projects. And I think what I did was I kind of got them mixed up and stitched the wrong piece on the wrong scrap. So it's okay, they'll still fit, but I think I made my life a little more challenging by doing that. So maybe in the future, if I'm going to do something like that, which is not common for me to do, I will label, like put a little tag and say that's what you measured this for. That would be smart, right? All right, so the visitor, this is from Nest of Petals, and her new one that is out now, she has a new video sharing that with us, is one that I planned. I've been working on getting it kitted up. I didn't have all the DMCs, so I think I have all of those now, and I just have to find some linen, and this is going to be one I'm going to be starting. That will be one that I'm starting soon. But this is one I already had on the go, so I made some progress. And this is actually, I shared this on my last video. And so what I'm going to show you now is the progress that I have made since then. And I mentioned about the tail. And so I did. I went and finished the tail and a little bit more of the, what is that? A leaf up above. So, Thornfield. Yes, maybe, maybe not. Not sure. I'm sorry for the flash, the wind. But here's where, and this is DMCs. It's charted for DMCs, and I don't think I made any changes. So, and I'm planning on stitching the whole thing, so no border to even worry about on that one. All right, a very small start. A while ago, I saw this at Country Sampler, and when I was there, Pam was doing, hi Pam, was doing a color conversion to, you know, Country Sampler makes a lot of conversions and then they sell them like as kits like that. But she had this on the go and was pulling flosses. When I walked back and saw her, and she was pulling flosses and a bunch of pinks. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? Where is that? I need to have that. And got a start on it relatively soon after that, but haven't gotten, again, back to it since. So lots of fun pinks in my future on this one. Don't know. And cannot remember what flosses or anything. So when I pull this out again, we'll talk more about it at that point. But isn't that pretty? Wow, so pretty. Don't think I've decided on the border. I think the border is really fun. I like the green, but probably could get away without it. And borders, honestly, they, you know, time has shown me again and again that if I choose to stitch the border, it's going to really slow me down and possibly even cause that WIP to end up in, you know, to languish for a really long time. That's not a bad thing. It's not a hurry, it's not a rush, except for me personally, I do like to see these things finished and on my wall. Although lately, any of the things I've been finishing, I've like, shame on me, because there's a huge stack of things that need to be framed. And the problem there is I'm very indecisive. It's very hard for me to just say that's the one. And then I'm cutting it down from a thrifted frame. So I got one shot, right? And I'm just noticing more and more that I'm hesitating more and more about doing that, making those decisions. And I just have to stop doing that. I just have to go ahead, give it a whirl. It's not the end of the world. It'll be fine. So yeah, I need to get some more things framed and some more things on my wall. So Scottish Garden Pin Drum. This is a portion. So it'll look, this is the pin drum finished here. It's a portion of a sampler that is available now from Needle Made Designs. We got this as a miniature project from the retreat that I was at. So this was the kit that we got to stitch. And so this is another one where I just kind of pull it out and stitch on it when I need something to just fill back and forth, back and forth. And so this is, I know it's button box. Well, I know it's, oh, phooey, I'm sorry. Hold on. It's going to say on here. I know it's the linen. I'm not exactly sure what color it is. I'm sorry. I feel off of that, my mind right now. You know, we were playing a game with friends recently, and it was one of those where you have to guess something really fast. Yes, Mason linen. Thank you for being patient. So this is Mason linen, and it is button box. It was provided at the retreat. So we were playing one of those games where you either give the clue and you can't use the word and they have to guess the word, or you're on the receiving end. And I really noticed, you know, there was a really easy one, like who played Han Solo? I know who played Han Solo. Harrison Ford. I know that all day long. They thought I was like stalling for time because I just couldn't come up with it. But I think just you're in that moment. Your brain just doesn't always work. All right. 1897 Schoolhouse Samplers. This is A Tender Father, 1847. My friend Celeste from Celeste Creates has a wonderful finish. I saw this again at the attic and fell in love. Got a little stalled out about making a color change. Wasn't sure I was happy with it. I am. It's fine. I just need to get this out. This is Up in the Attic by Fox and Rabbit. And like I mentioned, I did make a color change, but I am using the called for flosses. I just moved the green. I changed the green a little bit because a lot of it was calling for this apple cider. So it was going to be very brown. And I got to the point where I didn't know if I wanted a brown flower over there, and I changed it. And then I wasn't sure if I was happy, but honestly, it's fine. So then I was like, what color am I going to do the bird in the middle? Too much thinking, too much overthinking. So another one, because I have some beautiful Up in the Attic fabric on there. So that needs to get more progress so I can get that back in my stash. All right, Needlework Press. Mary Ann Aldred was an exclusive to the Homespun Needlework group a few years ago now. Time passes. I think it was a couple of years ago, but she is now out. And there's a fun story about the swan. Is Elaine from the Iowa State University. And it says, when a student at Iowa State University, Vicky was bitten by a female swan named Elaine at Lake Laverne. I feel like there was something missing in that sentence, but that's basically what it says. All right. Ale. Picture This Plus Ale, probably 36. On Picture This Plus, it's a tighter weave. I tend to go to 36 instead of 40 at this point. Using the called for colors, except I think I made a change, but I stayed in the same tone. And I wasn't sure about that being such what I felt was like a brighter bluish pink with the brown red of the house. But I've seen this in person, and that's how Mary Ann Aldred chose her colors, and so I'm going to go with it. And the border, I would have liked to, obviously, this is a lot of stitching, but this border is, that's like the first thing I see, and then Elaine. And so I just decided I have to do that one. That's kind of a lot of times how I'll make the decision on whether I'm going to do borders or not. I don't have a color photograph of this. This is another chart that comes from that disc that I talk about all the time, the Antique Needlework Quarterly Magazine. It's on a, you can get all the issues on the one disc, and I have stitched a number of things from it. Here's obviously, there I wrote it down for you. That's where you can find it. And so 1864 EF sampler from Needlework Press, American Chestnut from R&R. I had a very small piece, and I really, because I framed myself, it's okay, but I really was tight on my bottom margin there. DMCs, that's what it's charted for. Made just a couple of changes here and there, again, if I didn't like the tone of the blue or the green. I think I remember doing it in the deer. I think I made a change to the grass color on the deer. So something very minor like that. I'm not talking anything terribly. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. So fun. And this is another one that don't be surprised if you see this on my next floss too, because I'm really, really, really trying to get back to that. Okay. This one has got such a small start. You can see a lot more of it being stitched by Rosie from Rosie in the Rockies, and one that we have in common. Sarah Rinder is an exclusive, again, to Needle in a Haystack, the store up in Northern California. And I'm only planning on stitching this portion here, which is exactly what Rosie's doing, because she got inspiration from someone on Instagram who shows that in a frame. And so Rosie talks about that on her video. I will try to write that person's name down, so when I stitch on it, I have that reference for you as well. But let's see, 40 count vintage maple. I'm sorry for fussing with my hair. 40 count vintage maple sugar from Lakeside Linens. I have such a little amount done. It's like, which way's up? I think this is up. Yes, there's the bird's head. Okay. This is probably one of those where I started it for some reason and then really had to move on. It might have been a 12 by 12 situation, something along those lines, but very small start. And DMCs, again, like I mentioned with hats, a lot of times I'll just use the DMC. Yeah, I think that's everything about that. Oh, 12 by 12. That's what I was going to talk about. Are you going to participate in the NYE 12 by 12 this year? I love stitching that for that occasion. My friend Sandy, Stitching with Sandy, has done a Zoom now, I think 3 years, where she gets on about 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, because we're in Southern California, and she goes from 9 o'clock our time to 12 o'clock our time, so that you have the entire full range of, you know, which is, anyway, that's what she does. So if you would like to join that, just message her and she will send you the link. And that is always a fun thing that we do. You can come and go. You don't have to stay the entire time, but we will come and go. And I'll talk more about that as it gets closer. You'll hear us all talking about it a little bit more, but I am so excited to try to figure out what I'm going to be stitching for this year's occasion, this year's celebration. Ellen Carr, 1843, Needlework Press. My friend Jem, Stitching with Jem, is very determined to get me to stitch the border on this one. Don't disagree. It's fantastic. It is one of the first things you see on this. I have not decided. We shall see. But watch Jem. She has some really good progress. Lakeside Linen Vintage Flagstone. That is one of the colors. That and Weeks Dye Works Gray are the two that I use a lot for patriotic stitching. This is not a patriotic piece necessarily, but the colors do remind me of that with the red, white, and blue. And so those are some colors that I will use regularly. And I think that the colors just kind of, the red, white, and blues pop on these really well. So, yeah, I'm using the Classic Color Works Cotton Over Dyes on this one. So pretty. And you can tell I'm doing the alphabet. I just don't know about the border. Margaret Campbell. Wilton Cottage School, 1848, from Needle Made Designs. Linda is just lovely, and I love her designs. Got this as a retreat piece, obviously available now because that's been a few years. I love stitching on it. When I stitch on it, I think sometimes I put it away because I got a little not sure about doing the grass in the rice stitch. The rice stitch is fantastic. I love the effect that you get from it being slightly elevated. So, oh my God, and it's not hard. It's not hard. I think that the problem is counting where I'm going to start and go to, because, you know, if you're starting left to right or right, that's more what will throw me off a little bit. But let me see if I can do Vintage Meadow Rue. Oh, is that the back? I think that's the back. Is that the back? Yeah. From Lakeside. Can you see that right stitch popping up the grass? Another one, I haven't been sure how much I'm going to stitch. You know, do I go up to those fun things at the top, which I really love the color, or do I just, you know, stop here and I can have a finish, because it's been years and I will be able to enjoy it on my wall. I don't know. It's the not knowing that sometimes will. Okay, let's spread that out a little bit. Samplers and Stitches, Rachel Osborne, 1850. Carol X Stitch on Instagram. Another wonderful designer. She's on Etsy. Beautiful charts. Highly recommend you go and check out her shop. Made some color changes to this. Didn't want brown flowers or leaves, and so I made a couple changes there. But overall, just using the call for DMCs, it's beautiful. It's a really fun sampler. It is a little bit, there was a little bit, for me, it was a little fussy with these particular plants because I wanted to hide my thread and not, you know, carry it. And that's one of the things about carrying threads. My rule is typically 2, so I'm linen, so 2 linen, you know, squares, counting over 2 stitches, is mostly what I like to do. I will do 3 if it's not a dark color on a light fabric, if it won't show. 2 is my go-to. And so sometimes you have to wind it to the back, flip it to the back and wind it under. And I don't like doing that. I like being able to stitch in a pattern that I will cover the floss with other flosses as I go. So when I have to do a lot of that kind of stitching, I just break it down. And a lot of sampler stitching, you have to be a little more particular and careful with carrying threads versus like a full coverage or a bird. Lots of running room for me to start and stop. Oh, it's so pretty. Might be parchment. It might be parchment from Zweigart. No. That's not what I meant. Oh, gee. That's not what I meant, though. It's not that one. There are 2, and I always get them. I always can't remember what they are. All right, Nativity Band Sampler from A New Creation Studio. I was going to try to stitch on this the 25th of every month. I've discovered that is just not something I'm good at. So it's coming up where maybe I'll try to push more. I don't know. It won't be done this Christmas. It might be next Christmas. It's okay. It's beautiful. I tried stitching on the black. I got like 16 count black Ada. I just can't see it. I just don't want to fuss. So I pulled out, gave that to my friend Sandy, who can stitch on anything. And I pulled out a piece of Fox and Rabbit Eucalyptus. And so it's blue. It's fine. It's much easier for me to see. And it's the DMCs. Made some progress when I did pull it out on the 25th because my friend April Heirlooms had this great idea. And I was like, I know, I'm on board. I'll do it. But it didn't happen. The 25th has come and gone a few times. All right, Mojo Stitches, Echoes of a Garden Past. My friend Anne, selfish_stitcher on Instagram. Check her post out to see some. I think you have a finish on this, right, Anne? It's so pretty. I love Mojo Stitches, her charts as well. She's done several birds. Every year she puts out a bird, it seems like, that I have stitched. And this year is no different from, she has one out. I don't have it yet, but she does have the red birds out this year. So that'll be on the list. I think I've finished all the other birds from Joanna as of right now. But I love this. Love, love. Oh my gosh, isn't he handsome? I made some, this is Cottage Garden threads. Don't have those. And some of them can be highly variegated, which I have a hard time doing, stitching with highly variegated flosses. So I was switching it over to silks, and I will continue to do either silks or DMC, because sometimes I don't think I want, if you're stitching something that has so many colors, like her dress, like different shades already, if it's charted to show those colors, because it's charted that way, and you're going to get the movement because they've made you switch floss colors, then I don't think I need a variegated over-dyed floss, because then the colors might get muddy and mix when the shades match the other, and I don't feel like I've even looked like I've taken the time to change. So either I pick one floss that's got those colors in it and I stitch that throughout and use the variegation in the floss to my advantage, or I just use DMC, so that the DMCs and the way they've charted it will make those color movements for me. Like I think Shannon Christine, my friend Karen, the Twitchy Stitcher, she loves to stitch Shannon Christine, and it can be a lot of color changing, but it's the way she designs, and you need to make all those color changes to get that look, and she does it beautifully. So I sometimes think about that in advance, whether I think that the cotton overdyes are necessary, or whether the DMC will give me the look without having to worry about the flosses mixing and getting all. I hope that you know what I'm talking about. I hope that made sense. All right, so this is Hannah and Emma Foster, and I guess you can see the picture better down here. So I'm using the Irish Coffee, 38 count Irish Coffee, which is what it is kitted up with. You can get this, I think you can still get it now as a kit, because Katie Strachan worked her magic, and she used, hold on, I don't want to get it's the Goblins. Yes, I'm pretty sure it's the Swa Goblins. She made a conversion, and so I bought the package. I bought the kit so that I could do it just like this and use the colors. And I really like the Swa Goblins on the 38 count Legacy Irish Coffee. Legacy linen for me is and I know that's Katie's favorite. That's her go-to. She loves the Legacy linen. A lot of stitchers do. For me, it's more substantial. It's a little thicker. It's that's not bad. It's just, I noticed that it's a little harder for me to stitch on because I don't use the 103s, especially here. This is the Swa Goblin, but when I go back to a regular, so like a Zweigart linen, even if it's an overdyed or whatever, I notice the difference in my ability to just stitch a little easier. So that's a personal thing for me. It's what I've noticed as to how I stitch. Obviously, we all like different things, but I am using this for this experience and several others. I have Legacy linen on the go for several other projects. I do like it for depending on what it is I'm stitching. Isn't she pretty? Love that pink. All right, so I think, so Katie has a finish on this. I don't know if Brenda has a finish, or Laura, I don't remember. Karen, my friend Karen Lynch on Instagram, I think she has a finish. And if you're not following Karen Lynch on Instagram, she has a beautiful Reflet de Soie. Yvonne Leclerc, she finished recently. I think that's the one you did, right, Karen? She has a lot of, there are so many Instagram stitchers that they don't do floss tubes, but wow, the inspiration, it's incredible. And I just thank each and every one of you, because I love watching what you're stitching and getting inspired by you. Birds of a Feather Circle Together. This is from Mama Loves You GB. There are 2 colorways that you can choose from, the front and the back. She has both of them charted in the same design. And I decided to make some color changes and use my silks from my stash. I am happy for the most part, still on the fence the rest of the part as to whether I like what I did. I also decided, because I wanted to use this Vintage Bittersweet from Lakeside, I think that's what I ended up getting. I got that at Acorns and Threads up in Oregon. I wanted to use this color And I thought I'm going to try the 32 count. So the coverage in some places I wasn't sure about, but the more and more I look at it, I mean, I am happy with it. And I think it's going to look good in a circle frame. I have a plate frame that I'm probably going to be able to use as a finish. So the reason I have, again, this has languished a bit lately. Oh, started this with a couple of friends. So Mud Puppy Stitchery Kenzie, she already has a finish. And lately, Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot has been getting some regular progress on this. And I was going to say it's a little bit harder for me because I am making so many changes in the way of just pulling silks from my stash. And so those are a lot of decisions and sometimes decision fatigue, which is a real thing. Gets the better of me. Okay, this is one of my oldest WIPs. This is Bird Song by Samplers Not Forgotten. And this is vintage exemplar, which is the called for. I actually happen to have a piece of that and really was struggling with this because these leaves were very hard for me to stitch. I was having a really hard time with the counting, and the chart is very tiny. And this is one that is a good example of when I was able to blow it up. It made such a difference in me being able to get this portion done when I pulled it out again. And so I still don't enjoy stitching the leaves. It's a lot, but I feel confident now that I will continue to make progress on this because it is beautiful. These colors, wow. I think I am using the called for flosses, cotton overdyes. I did make a change in the beginning. I decided I didn't want my flower to be green, so I changed it to the red. Then I went on and said, no, I'm just going to keep it green. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. I might just match this one or maybe add a little bit of a red one, and then we'll see. Haven't decided. I've created a little bit of a problem for myself because I changed it and then I didn't change it. But I think it's going to be, you won't know. Like, you won't know unless you see that I made that or tell you, now that I've told you. Okay. Another one that I started with my friend Renee, Prairie Stitcher 515, and she has finished. This is Anne Jane Brownrigg, 1867, again from Carol X Stitch or Samplers and Stitches on Etsy. Don't know the name of the, looks like it could be hog bristle. And I'm probably using some of her colors, as well as I know I made changes once I started stitching the bird. This was in my, everything pink and blue phase this year. And so that has been something I have been really enjoying, is changing things to those colors. But, oh yeah, I think I talked about how I made some changes to this one. There were some, I made some changes. I talked about it when I showed it on my video when I was stitching it, but it's such a pretty, another one where, am I just stitching to here? I think that's what I did. I don't think I even left enough linen. I think I'm just stitching this bottom part. That'll be good. I think that'll be all right. I really only have so much room on my walls, quite frankly. There might be some rotation happening. Sarah Rickwood is from Running with Needles and Scissors. You cannot get her as of yet. She was a free, if you were on her newsletter, and you could get it free at that time, like a year or two ago, and she will release it in the future. So I did not know that. So just stay tuned. This will be coming out in the future. It is charted for the Vicki Clayton silks. I did buy the Vicki Clayton silks, and yeah, not sure about the linen. So been making some progress once I pulled her back out. My friend April Heirlooms, again, has a fabulous finish, and Renee has a finish as well. She didn't stitch the border, I believe, but April stitched all of it. So I have decided that at least I'm stitching the bottom, and I may not stitch the sides, and I may just do the top going across as well and shortcut it a little bit that way. But didn't get a lot. I wasn't super excited about the blue. It looked like there was a little bit more of a bit of a light blue in areas, whereas mine comes out to be a lot more of just a flat, well, not flat, that's not the word, straight electric blue without a lot of the other lighter color showing. Not a bad thing, just would have preferred a little bit more of the lighter color in there, a tad bit here and there. But overall, like I said, it's going to be beautiful. It's not going to matter. Again, variegated flosses, you know, things are hand dyed, and that's to be expected. So it's fine. Let's see. Stitching Book Club's The Secret Garden by Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts. You can get this on Etsy. I did not even start this when the stitch along was happening. I think it was a mystery stitch along, and I do not often want to sign up for those because I kind of want to know what I'm doing ahead of time, what it looks like finished. And sometimes that's a good thing because I just enjoy watching you guys do things. I would have loved to stitched on this color fabric, but I think I just was afraid it would be too dark. I didn't have it, but I was afraid it would be a little too dark. So I'm not. I am using the DMCs. And this is surprisingly, takes me a while to stitch. I don't know why. It just does. Color changes. I don't know. But it's small, and I think there's just not a lot of focus for me to hurry it along. I'll just enjoy it again, maybe in the spring this coming year. I enjoy the colors. I enjoy the stitch. I'm excited to get up to the birds. It's just an enjoyable stitch. Okay, this is another one that is older. And she just takes some time because those flowers take me a bit of time. So Christian Gisinger, 1839, from Victorian Rose Needle Arts. I thought that this was out of print. But then I also thought when I was looking for something else, I saw this on her site. So if you're interested, just go looking for it because it's beautiful. I have made a few changes to the flosses. I recently had someone, and I'm sorry, I'll have to look it up again. I'll talk about it. But she asked me again what colors I was using because hers weren't coming out quite the same. I think the biggest one I told her was, and here's the sheet I was looking for. Why couldn't I find this? I think I Schoolhouse Red instead of the old red paint. And I made a couple of changes to the like Attic Tea, the silk for the grass. And I'm using nutmeg instead of cinnamon. So those are the three things that I knew for sure. I think I used a bit of the Piney Woods in the branch here, but then it was really dark. And so then I wasn't sure as I was thinking about it. It's been a while since I pulled her out. So just a few changes overall. But again, these colors, when you buy them now, this was a while ago, that Faded Rose, that could be a little bit of a wild card. So not really sure there, but, and this is on Chai by Seraphim Fabrics, but Chai does not look pink. So don't think you're going to get Chai if you buy Chai from Seraphim Fabrics. Because I do have the fabric is more of a pink, a brown pink. So I could have been done, and this would have been on my wall for the last couple of years if I weren't stitching the border. But isn't the border fantastic? I mean, that's just kind of one of those pow. And it's nice to have a combination. So, but that just shows you how long it'll take me because I would have stitched that basket of flowers like toot sweet. Okay, Diana Bloom Designs, Coming Home is available from her Etsy store. She has a Flosstube, and she designs a lot of bird charts. I love her designs. And I was very excited to start this one and get some pretty good progress before, of course, other things pulled me away. But so I want to say eucalyptus, but that might not be right. So it is a beautiful blue. Let me fold this down. And I am using her DMC. No, so Diana uses a lot of Roxy Floss because she's a Canadian designer and she loves the Roxy Floss products, rightly so, the floss and the linens, the fabrics. But I didn't have the Roxy Floss, so I switched it to DMCs. So I'm pretty sure Diana has provided the conversion. I don't think I made up anything on my own. Isn't that, look at that, isn't that cute? As you stitch it and you can see it come to life. think it's just the DMCs. I don't think there's any overdyes in there. All right, let's switch this way. How are you all doing? You hanging in there? Okay, Hannah Smith, 1838. Again, needlework press, another an absolutely famous favorite designer of mine. I stitch a lot of needlework press charts. Going to stitch to here, and going to probably, I'm not sure if I'm gonna do, she has it in over one, but she also has charted it for us where it's not over one, should you decide you don't want. I think that on this one, I know she does that. I was wanting to make sure to tell you. Is that what it is on the back here? Yeah, that's not over one. Okay, so she's recharted a portion of it, so if you don't want to do over one stitching. Not sure. Could be Steinbeck from Needle and Flax, Steinbeck, with the cotton overdyes. A lot of times, Vicki, I noticed a lot lately, will use a lot of Classic Colorworks. So that's what those are. This is from a while, again, another one that it's just a really good fill-in piece, and I guess I just haven't made the time to pull that out. But this is La Maison sampler from the Spanish stitcher, Trelly. She has some beautiful designs. Again, go check her out. I think she's still on Etsy. Lots and lots to choose from. This, I think, is Platinum by Zweigart, which is not an overdyed. It's just a beautiful basic color from Zweigart that they offer. No, I think I'm just using the call for DMCs. I love those blue windows. And a big pot of fruit basket on the top, and the peacock. Okay, the Scarlet House, Harriet Taylor, 1842. The more and more I look at this, while I love this I love this border. I saw my friend Carol Crago stitched it. The more and more I look at this, though, I think I'm going to just leave the border off, pull this out. Next time I pull it off, I can go for a finish, because I'm just going to stitch this portion here. And I think it's going to look, I love the house. It's just so different. I saw this at Tanya's house, was so blessed to be able to go and visit her home and see the models on the wall and all that. And this is one I saw and really fell in love with. So this house is just so different. And this might be vintage pecan butter. I really pulled out a special piece of linen for it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to not even bother to tell myself, wait, you're not sure about the border, because this, I want to enjoy this. And I can get this finished the next time. It's a tree. It's a tree and some grass. Okay, maybe not the next time. Maybe the next time and the time after that. Because grass takes a bit of time. Okay, so this is one of those, another one that I'm stitching on the Legacy linen. I don't know if it's 38 or 37, and it's full coverage. And I am using the Avers Soie d'Alger, which I love, but they do have a tendency to be shreddy. So very, very short strands. But the colors, and I wanted it to look just like this. Started this with my friend Susan Stanley from A Stitch in Time, and she's making progress on it steadily as well here and there. So no rush, we'll just keep pulling her out. There's a lot of over one, which is why I really hesitated. This whole bottom part here is all over one. And I was very intimidated by, but I just love it so much that I decided to give it a whirl. And I am just doing the half stitch, one leg. And I am doing, which a lot of people I think will say to do it the other way, but my brain, my muscle memory wants to go a certain direction for the first leg of the stitch, right? And that's the way when I'm stitching, I knew it would be much harder for me to stop and always think about doing the top leg as my final direction. And I just didn't want to do that. So I am doing it where you won't even see, because from here, you can't even see which way the leg is going. The only time it'll make a difference, and I might go back and cross it, but I don't think I will, because again, from here you can't see, is when it's on a diagonal and it's like this diagonal line of stitching. It's more prominent that you have done one leg and maybe that leg is going the other direction. It doesn't bother me. I think it looks, it's beautiful. Look at those colors. Oh my gosh. So yeah, wow. So can you see what, I don't know if you can see if it's, oh, well, if it's close enough for you to be able to see that diagonal stitch could have benefited, and a little bit around his face would have benefited from me doing a full stitch, a full X. And I could have done that. So I just didn't know. I was trying to be consistent. So going forward, that is something to keep in mind, and I will think, but honestly, right when you're there, you just do what looks good to you, because a lot of times there are Jean Farish likes to say, there are best practices, but it's your stitching. So you stitch it the way you're happy. And if that changes over time, then that's okay too. Speaking of Jean Farish, she has some really good tutorial. I've seen some videos out lately, so watch them all. I watch them all. My friend Audrey Marine, Stitch Bead, she did a stitching over one tutorial. She did a confetti stitching tutorial. I don't always stitch a lot of the same way. Some of the tips that she gave, I'm like, yes. Some of the other ones, I was like, oh, I do it differently. Same thing, I saw another one come out from Antique Needleworkers about stitching over one. The one I really got I don't want to say that they're not helpful as well, but the one that really resonated with me a lot was Jean Farish stitching over one, because she had the diagram. She actually showed you a diagram as to the thought behind where you want that stitch to go and why you want it to, be parallel, or it was very helpful. So watch all of those and develop your own technique for stitching over one. Okay, handwork samplers. The Eliza Hills 1856 sampler. You can get this from the attic. This is where I saw it stitched, fell in love, and now I got to start on it. My friend Tina, sorry Tina, I'm trying to blank on her Instagram. She has a finish. Team Egner on Instagram. She has a finish. And Jessica, Schoolhouse Stitcher. She has a beautiful finish. I have a good start. This is Vintage Meadow Rue. And DMC's made a couple of changes, and I did make a oopsie on the blue in the flower stitching. It was supposed to be white. Originally, I wasn't going to pull it out, but the more I look at it, I think I am going to pull out one of the blues and make it white, because I do want it to be. So I'm really happy with what I've gotten done so far. Obviously, it's a good start, but there's more to go, and I will be changing what it says in the middle more than likely, because I think it's over one. Fun fact, Jean Lee was a court reporter for a good portion of her career. I think when she first purchased the attic, she was still actively working as a court reporter. And when I worked for the 36 years, right out of high school, I went to court reporting school with my friend from forever that I mentioned. And we both went through school together. We took the tests together. We had our careers together. And I retired because I was starting to have a lot of physical challenges from the repetitiveness of the job. And my friend is still actually working as a court reporter. And, so I thought it was a fun thing to have in common with Jean. It's not a lot of, we don't meet a lot of court reporters out in the wild. The Garden Glade Carriage House samplings, another one that I was highly inspired from seeing Jean's conversion that she had started at the attic. There is a model stitched the way this model was stitched was with all the browns, but Jean had started and she changed all the grass to green, and I thought, oh, I really like that. So I have done my best to pull every green silk that I had, which, you know, a lot of them probably would have been the same ones that Jean used, because she used, at that time, I think she was doing the Glorianas, and that's kind of the wall that I went to, or maybe Belsoise. Jean, when she went to 56 count, she started doing all of the Soie Surfine. But I saw her, I got inspired by her start. She didn't have it finished, but I got inspired by her start. And so I've made some of my color choices based on that. This is, again, Eucalyptus from Fox and Rabbit. And this is just all the greens I had in my stash. And I just tried to mimic. I do believe that if you buy the chart and the silk, if you buy the conversion from the attic, if you buy the silks from the attic, then they will provide you the conversion that Jean had started. She didn't, like I mentioned, she didn't finish it. So I'm not sure if I'm sure the conversion is complete. I'm sure she did all the work. So now that I've made the decision on her dress, that will be, and I think another thing is I really changed the colors of the tree, and that's a lot of just, you know, leaves and bark, trunk stitching. So, whew, starting to get a little thirsty. This is another one from a retreat at the attic. Jane Eleanor Lee, 1836, from Samplers Remembered. And I love this. I just love this. It's a shame she hasn't seen more progress. So straw, 40 count week straw is the called for. I made the change to Vintage Maple Sugar by Lakeside Linen because I wanted it to be more pink, but I did use the oranges. I did put a lot of the oranges in there that are charted. I think it's going to be a lot of fun colors. I also think I'll make more progress a lot easier on this now that I'm stitching from my iPad. So it'll be a lot easier for me to keep track of where I'm at. I might have to pause. get some tea with honey. All right, Miss Lucy Calcutt from Just Stitching Along. This was definitely a birthday start, and it's a finish, and you can see it on her wall from Sarah W., handmade by Sarah W. She changed the house to blue. I'm only going to stitch the bottom portion. So I'm not even sure about this, but I do like this. I think I want to add that too. And I think the chart has been adapted so that you can just get a chart that has just this bottom section now. Just check. Look, I think I saw that. Maybe Vanilla by Color and Cotton. Or was it Cream and Sugar? Fiber on a Whim. Yeah. Okay. Beautiful DMCs. Oh my gosh. Love everything about this. Did get off on my counting. And so I'm pausing to decide whether can I finish this and then somehow translate the what I did wrong on this side. Do I care? Does it matter? I don't know. It's part of what has paused the stitching, but plenty of fill-in to do down here. No reason not to get her out on a good zoom and just make some progress. Maybe 12 by 12. What do you guys think? I don't know. Should I, because I can do 12 birds. I easily have 12 bird charts. I can do, last year I think I did houses, anything that had a house on it. And then I noticed I got sick last year, so I didn't even get to participate as much as I wanted, but I could do birds, I could do houses, I could do birds and houses. I don't know. There's so many options. It's fun to kind of decide. Okay, so this is GGR, The Betrothed, and I am making some changes to this to make it more like the shape of a band sampler, long and narrow. It's a terrible... It got wet and it's kind of hard to see, but when Gigi does her covers to her charts, she uses the antique on the cover. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to see what it would look like if it, to see it stitched. This is another one that April Heirlooms is making great progress on. So follow her on Instagram. And Grace the Paisley Stitcher has a finish. So while she's not making videos right now, you can go back and see an old one and find that. This is Havana from Weeks Dye Works. Kind of a little bit more difficult for me to stitch on Havana, I have noticed. So going forward, I don't think I will choose this linen. even though the color is fantastic. Weeks Dye Works, they have a lot of really wonderful colors, and they have a Zweigart base fabric now, so that's good. One more top row. Looks like I've got the placement set out, so now it'll just be, and the colors chosen. It'll just be filling that in. And I've been hemming and hawing. I do have a little bit left, so if I decided I wanted to put one more row, but honestly, I would really like to just finish the top and be done. That would be, and I got beads. I did buy beads to do her crown and do her dress. Hopefully they're the right size. This was back before I heard my friend Katie talk all about beads and the many different choices out there now. So don't limit yourself to Mill Hill. Just check it out. There's more wonderful beads out there. So if mine don't fit, then I will do that. So Jane Fittis, 1835, by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. Ooh, she's pretty. So pretty. Shelly, It's Only Stitching, or Key X Stitch on Instagram. She has a finish. Lots of people have a finish on Jane. Inca from Fox and Rabbit. Just the perfect fabric for this. I am really happy with this choice. And this was inspired by someone. I think it was an option I pulled out and someone said, I used Inca. That's all I need. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Because there were a lot. I had, lots of choices. If you don't have Inca, there's lots of choices out there. She'll look good on. That's not the called for either. I don't know if I can find the called for easily, but. Well, if you have the chart, you'll know. Straw is the called for. Oh my gosh, isn't she pretty? This is being stitched with the silks because a very sweet friend of mine gifted those to me. So this is Soie d'Alger, a Vera Soie that I'm using, which is one of the called for. Isn't it funny the house looks, I talked about this last time, the house looks white here to me, more white, but it's obviously blue. When you really, really look, you can see that it's blue. And yeah, it's charted in the 103s as well as the DMC, but I have the pleasure of stitching with the Soie d'Alger, a Vera Soie. There's some over one on this, some over one, so I did it. The dog is over one, so I would have, again, just done the continental stitch, the half stitch. We talked about the differences in that. I don't even remember. I researched it, but I don't remember what they were. I think it's the way you make your stitch, whichever direction you're going or something. So the Red Deer Sampler by GGR. This is another one. Rebecca, you mentioned that you have a small start on this. My friend Sarah Stitchy Spot is working on this as a WIP. A lot of these Steph Lake Girl Stitches also has as a WIP. Again, I made so many changes with a mixture of cotton overdyes and silks from my stash, really just being more color driven. And I'm doing another, I've made some adjustments to make it a band sampler. So Rebecca, Sarah, let's get together and get something going, right? Make some progress. Did I tell you Vintage Meadow Rue by Lakeside? And you can see that I found my edge. So that's how wide it will be. And I just need to repeat this flower on this side. I do think I'm going to pull out the yellow. I talked about how that made me think of circus colors. And I think if I just take out the yellow and replace it with maybe the purple or the pink, I will be happier. It's an easy fix. There's not very many stitches there. So I can get a finish on this. I think the only thing that has held me back a little bit is that it's a lot of making sure I count and I get it in the right place on this side. And I've done all the math. I figured it all out. So now it's just a matter of sitting down when I have a nice big day ahead of me of stitching and I can focus and get going and then not have to stop right anytime soon. Sometimes, if I stitch, I'm retired and this is my only hobby. So I stitch most days. It's very seldom that I don't stitch at all, but that does happen. But even just having it on my Lowry and I have my stitchy spot set up all the time, even just sitting down for a few minutes here and there and putting some stitches in adds up, makes a difference. but I don't really want to take on something that I have to do a lot of thinking, and you know, I've made a lot of changes and all of that. So that does require where I have like a nice big block of time that I'm ready to commit. Hannah Elliott, 1848, another needlework press. Steph Lake Girl Stitches recently has a fantastic finish, and Holly, Hobbies of Holly, is working on this as well. So that's another one. Holly, we gotta make some progress. Cheer each other on. I'm using the called for cotton overdyes, probably in most situations. And except I did change the roof color. That's right, I did change the roof color. What am I using? Is this I don't want to take the time to find out what it's called for. I don't know if this is or not. What is this? Maybe Bee's Knees? Maybe, no, it's not Bee's Knees. Yep, I'll know next time. I'll tell you when I pull it back out again and we're stitching on it. So I added that flower the last time. That was a lot of stitching, a lot of fussy stitching. Took me some time, so I didn't make as much progress as I wanted to, but that's okay. She's definitely one that I'm in this for the long haul. It's going to take me this. You'll see Hannah Elliott for a number of years to come. So that'll be fun. Another one, you'll see this for a number of years to come. Fox and Rabbit, Dorothy's sampler, again with Steph. Oh, it's just so pretty. Is it, my friend Trisha from Prep 409 is stitching the sampler that is very similar to this, that's by Kathy Barrick. It's a little bit different on the bottom. And it's a little bit different, but it's basically, you can tell that they were either stitching off of maybe the same sampler or it had been, I don't know. Anyway, it's available from that designer as well, if you want it. And that's on the Havana, so it's a darker color. This is another one where it's like either vanilla or cream and sugar, or I don't know exactly what this is, but it could be, no, I don't know. And I think it is 46 count. So this might be, well, it's 46 count something. And I'm using some of the colors, but I changed some as well. Yeah, it's a combination, DMCs and cotton overdyes. I love that bird. I really like the bright cheery green that I chose for that bird. I don't know what it is, but it's on the list. I have it written down. Soaring with the Wind. Apparently I have a fair number of charts by 1897 Schoolhouse samplers. And this is one that I got I got the chart and the flosses. I don't remember if I got the linen from Evertote. And so I got it all as a kit. And this Once Upon a Time was you got it like in installments, where she broke it down and took just maybe 5 or 6 of these. And then I waited. And when the entire sampler came out, I got it. This was when I struggled. The chart is very small for me. And when I'm able to do it digitally and blow it up, it's just made a world of difference for me. So you can't get it in a PDF, but just being able to take a picture of the paper chart has been sufficient for me. So when I pulled it out, I really made some progress and loved stitching on it, and I'm excited to get back to it. So did I mention, so I bought the kit, so it's the Roxy floss, and it's really lovely to stitch with. I'm very much enjoying this. It's going to be another one that'll take a while because each motif will feel like a finish, but there's a lot of them, and they will take, each one of those will take a bit of time. I said something on my prior WIP parade where I was talking about how I really wanted to focus on smaller samplers, something that was a much more manageable size. Oh, the lies we tell ourselves. Moments of Glad Grace by Blackbird Designs, making a lot of color changes to my silks. So another one, another beautiful Blackbird Designs. Yeah, just making a lot of color changes to silks from my stash. Might be Bear. What is that floss? That's that fabric I love so much from Oh gosh. I'm trying to slow my brain down and pause to think about it, but it's not coming. So can you tell the difference? My colors are a lot less muted, and I'm really loving it. Stitching the border, stitching with Renee as well. I think there's more. I think there were a few more friends stitching this. I haven't mentioned Laurel, the I Am a Stitch Nerd, or Krista the Wildflower Stitcher, two other ladies that I have a lot of stitching in common with. Yeah, I'm so blessed to have so many stitchy friends. Let's see. Cross Stitch Antiques, Julia Rachel de la Mare, 1849. Another one I got is the kit from Country Sampler. So I have all of the things that they provided in the kit, the flosses and the fabric. I think that there was a mistake that if you go to Cross Stitch Antiques website, she has provided the correction. So if you're stitching this, there is some sort of an error in this top border right here, I believe. And there is a bit of a challenge. This butterfly, while it looks equal here, it's not been charted that way. So just a heads up, you can stitch it as it's charted and your butterfly will be a little wonky, or you can make some changes and try to even out your butterfly a little bit. And I know Jackie Comfort Stitching has talked about that, and there is a stitcher on Instagram, same thing. So just a heads up that you'll have to make those changes if you want. Which way is right side up? I think it goes this way. Yeah, pretty sure it goes this way. I don't know if this was Steinbeck or Hemingway, whichever floss fabric they provided, and like I said, they called for. And there was a discussion about one of the cotton overdyes, Brown Bear, I think. You were only supposed to use, the color changed, like the overdyed floss got changed from when she initially charted it. So just another one there. There's a note of that. I'm happy. I think I'm just going to continue to go from this motif and then out. So I'll deal with those other, whatever I want to do, change-wise or corrections or whatever when I get there. Do I have this? Okay, I got a small start on this because I was going to take it to a retreat, summer school, and then I took the chart, but not the actual stitching. So I'll pull this back out, and I just got to stitch this flower. Roses in July. Another one, an adaptation of an antique by Needlework Press. And the original, can you see, is on perforated paper. I paused for a long time trying to decide if I wanted to stitch it on perforated paper, but I decided not to, obviously. And it is on another piece of Embarrassed. I think I just pulled, if I had the silks at this point, because I did have a lot of them now. When I first bought that chart, oh my gosh, forever ago, I didn't have any of the silks. So glad I waited, because now I did have a number of them. And if not, I made some good subs. So yeah, I was ready to go. I was going to take this and stitch this part, and I didn't remember to pack this part. So that'll be an easy finish when I pull it back out. Another one I'm making changes to because I wanted it to be pink instead of blue, and I started this with Stitchy Sally, who has a finish on it, and lots of other stitchers as well. But I am using 103s from my stash, so you will see again that I've made a lot of changes to the pink. Cottage Garden samplings, Peacock pin cushion. Which way is up? I think it goes this way. I don't use a lot of the 103s. I haven't decided how I feel about them. I think I just need to stitch with them more. I have floss everywhere here before I can give you a better idea of what my personal opinion is. Depends on the linen. I think because the coverage, you want to use a higher count linen if you want better coverage. It depends on what appeals to you. It's just a personal choice. It's the way it's twisted. I don't know. It knots a little bit for me. I just have to give it more time before I tell you more. I don't remember what I thought from doing this, quite frankly. But I had them, and I thought this would be a good time to use them and change it to pinks. So we'll see. I think I'm happy with the pinks that I've chosen. This could be another piece of Embarrassed. I got some. I really liked it. Renee gave me a piece for like my birthday or something, and so I did have some to be able to chop up into smaller pieces. All right, this makes me laugh. It'll always make me laugh. So this Krista the Wildflower Stitcher Chocolate Sampler by Jean Lee, Samplers in My Attic. You can get this at the attic. And we got this stitched it. I normally would not have even purchased this because it's borders and letters. I don't like stitching either one of those things, but I love this. So Krista and I were standing there and I just, okay, she was going to stitch it. I'm like, I love it. I've always loved it. It's now available. I will stitch it with you. Let's stitch 1 thread a day. Krista didn't say anything out loud, but in her head, she was thinking, yeah, that's not going to happen. I didn't even know. I was so serious. I can't even tell you. But she knew. Krista knew. You knew better. You knew better, Krista. I know. This is on a piece of Rhapsody, which is from Moonshine Stitchery, from Phoebe at Moonshine Stitchery. She has wonderful linens, beautiful linens, and I have a number of her linens that I've either got on the go, I've already stitched on, or I have in my stash. So I recommend her. I recommend her linens and her Flosstube. She's lovely. Oh, sheesh, do I... Schoolhouse Red. I told Krista I was going to use Schoolhouse Red. I do not think I veered from that thought. So, yeah, it's a lot of border. It's a lot of letters. It's beautiful. I'm going to love it. But I think it's going to be one that when I pull it out, I will make progress for however long and then put it away again. That 1 strand a day, while it is effective, you see time and again, Sarah Stitchy Spot does it, though she didn't start it. She's very careful to always mention that she saw another stitcher talk about it first. And it's so a lot of stitchers use it and to great success, but it's just not for me. This is fantastic. Clara, 1876, from Susan Stanley, Stitch in Time, the retreat piece. You will be able to get this again. I think it'll come out maybe by market because she's fantastic. A lot of us said, hey, we need a little, maybe a drummer boy to go along with her. What do you think? What do you think, Susan? Oh, she's just, and we got the kit for this. So, Soie d'Alger, a Vera Soie d'Alger. Oh my gosh. The colors, and this is on the linen that was provided. It's a legacy linen, but I don't remember the color. Maybe blue heron, gray heron. Oh my gosh, isn't she? And there have been some finishes. Some of the people that got, I think there's a stray thread. There have been some finishes of her. Again, just short strands, very short strands, because it does get a bit shreddy. I think I got off a little bit, but it's fine. On her arm. I think I did 1 stitch in the wrong spot or something. I was like, yeah, it's fine. We talked about this and the colors and all of that. This is an exclusive to the attic. I'm going to move the floss out of the way. It looks like I've got peeking over the edge here. I don't want to yank my silk though. Let me tuck it back. This is Anne Wildman's work, 1839. And it is, like I mentioned, an exclusive. You can buy it only as a kit. So you have to keep that in mind right now. It's available as a kit from the attic. That wonky zebra and the stag over here. I am using the kit with the Vintage Light Exemplar. Yes, from Lakeside. And I had it kitted up with DMC. Then I made a couple of adjustments. So I did change the DMC color on the flower vase to the silk that I had. That's less gold, it's more green. And the gold is what it would look like. I did stitch with the gold in the flower. Can you see the stems on the flower? That's the gold that it called for, that the vase would have been. And I just decided I didn't want it to be that gold, although that looks fabulous. But I went with the green. So just a personal choice. Bird of Bordeaux. You know how much I love this one. Hooey. This is from the Proper Stitcher. And this was just a piece of fabric I had. I don't know what it is. And I'm using Annie's silks that she called for. Except for a couple of changes. I did change to a different silk just because I just didn't have. It was a very small area, you know, like the beak and the eye and a little bit of the color there, and I just didn't have a lot. We're almost there. We're almost there. Just, I cannot tell you how much I just love this one so much. So a few more leaves and flowers to go, but this will be, I'll finish it, if not next time, the time after that for sure. And I don't remember what this linen is. I think it was just in my stash and not labeled. This will be a finish. There's just grass. So Blackberry Bay Designs. This is Katerina Stitch on Instagram or Stitcher. And her, sorry, that's the name of her chart, her design company there on Etsy. This is a PDF. And Mary Scott, Miss Decker's school. I'm only stitching the bottom portion. I just shared this on my last video, and I just haven't gotten it back out to do the grass, but that's all that's left is the grass. So made some changes, used some of her called for, chose a piece of, I believe this is a Tabby Cat linen, but I don't know which one. It was just, again, something I had a scrap piece of. And I am so excited to have this one. I will put it in that gold ornate frame, and it will hang much like this. That's the exact frame as that Ann Emtage is in. So that will be a finish. We have, can you hang in there? We have like 7 more on the Q snaps, and then I think that's everything. Everything. Whew. I even shortcutting or trying to shortcut it, it still took a couple of hours. From Velvet to Linen by Kathy Barrick. You will see. So I mentioned Rebecca and I will be stitching this. I made some, this is one we pulled out and I made some progress on, as well as there is an absolutely fantastic finish from Holly, Hobbies of Holly, and it's in a beautiful frame. So I'm sure you've already seen that. But here is Thornfield 40 count with the Aversois Soie d'Alger. No, with the NPIs that are charted. Oh, wow. Yeah, it made some pretty good progress. When I pulled it back out, I stitched all of that. So this flower was, I had a really hard time with these flowers. Again, that was when I was on paper. This is when I was digital, but it's a lot of counting. And I noticed that it was definitely a little bit more of a challenge for me to not get off. I had to be very methodical, very careful in that portion of this chart. The vase, obviously up and down, it's gonna be a lot easier. Something Blue from Quaint Rose Needle Arts. Oh, how I love Macy, and I love her charts. So made some good progress on this. Again, Thornfield, Needle and Flax. Called for colors. They're mostly DMCs, and then she has 2 blues, which are the overdyes. And I actually, when I started, I didn't have the blue, which is supposed to be the same blue as the tail, so I just used the DMC. And then when I ended up getting the overdyed, I decided to use it in here. Birds have different colors. I'm not going to worry about it or change it, but just a heads up, this is the DMC, and then I started using the overdyed for the other areas of blue. Alrighty, let's see who's next. Oh, so excited to get back to this one. Mansfield Park Quaker, Twin Peak Primitives. Scrimshaw by Cedar River Linen with the called for DMC colors. Only stitching to the house there. It will not say Mansfield Park. While I am a huge Jane Austen fan, Mansfield Park is not my favorite novel from her. So I think I might have used a silk for the hair. I think I did. I think I changed the hair color, but I don't remember for sure. Stitching, started that with April Heirlooms and Rainy Day Reads and Crafts, and we are all stitching a different Jane Austen sampler from Twin Peaks. Mary Ann Buck, Needlework Press. Mondays with Mary is Redfection Stitcher on Instagram. Roseanne, she has a loose sal going where she tries to pull out Mary Ann Buck on Mondays and get some progress. So this is a kit from the attic as well. And I bought the cotton overdyes. And this is, it came with the bee's knees, was the fabric that I bought. Wow, isn't that red? That's such a pretty red. I think it's caroling. Yes, caroling is a classic Colorworks, and I love it. This is another Macy Quaint Rose Needle Arts. You will see this as a fantastic finish. Megan, the Seattle Stitcher, and Sarah W., handmade by Sarah W. This was another birthday stitch for her. So Anne Hughes, 1852, Woodfield House by Quaint Rose Needle Arts. I am using, nope, can't remember. And made some color changes. I did get to use the Cottage Garden threads. Steph sent me, she had it and she sent me, it didn't take a lot, so she sent me enough to stitch it. Not super happy with my use of the variegated floss in that pot. Like I said, that's a bit of a struggle for me. Definitely room for improvement. And I made some changes to the flowers and the bird. I just made a couple of changes here and there as I went. Modern Folk Embroidery. Again, Sarah Stitchy Spot and Steph, A Cloud of Sweetness, Modern Folk Embroidery. I can't remember if my friend Catherine Adrian from Stitching in Costume, I'm not sure. Oh, Renee. Renee has a finish. That's what it was. Yep. Renee has a finish. She didn't stitch the border and some of the other things. She just did the flower pot in the middle there. So. Oh, Dolomite. Is that Fiber on a Whim? Oh my gosh, do I love this color. I know it's Dolomite. Fox and Rabbit or Fiber on a Whim. Oh my gosh. And no, I chose two silks from the attic for both of us to use. Renee and me, we both used Juby's Pink, Olive Grove for the green. I talk about it when I share this, so if that's wrong, make sure you double check before you stitch it, or before you adjust my colors. It'll be on my Instagram. The Scarlet House, Margaret Mossop, 1843, a recent start for me. Not sure how much of it I'm stitching. Don't know the linen. Might have talked about it on my last video. Made a couple of color changes as well, if I remember right. So fun. Love the motif stitching like this, and a good size to manage that size of motif. This one, oh my gosh, barely a start, but boy, howdy do I want to get this back out. Teresa Kogut, Newcastle Bouquet, not stitching the border. Sarah has a beautiful model on display at Acorns and Threads, and Renee stitched just a portion of it. Jan Holder, my friend, Hoop It Up with Jan. She has a fabulous finish. So, and I am just pitiful. I think I just I had enough time before I left for the retreat or something to get a start. I think that's all I was trying to do, was just to get a start. So nothing even to really show you there, but definitely ready to go next time I pull it out. And Miss Julia D. Brown's portfolio. I wanted to go, this by Needlework Press, I wanted to go to the, Bristol a couple of years ago, because this was in the newsletter as one of the samplers that was going to be there. And this was a big reason for me, not only to go otherwise, but this was definitely the one. And I'm stitching this one on the perforated paper that was provided in a very large sheet. I don't know where you get this size. It is a white, because 18 count only comes in white. And I did the mister with some Rit dye. And so here's where I am. It's, I guess, obviously very hard to show you without what's behind, but called for colors. Maybe a sub here or there, but. And the last one I have to share with you that I can see is Jane Duffin Sampler 1834 by the Wishing Thorn, another one stitched with my friend Renee. I think we started with one by Renee and now we're ending on one I'm stitching. Renee has a finish. Here is what I have so far. Have not decided exactly what else is going to happen going forward. How much more? if I'm putting the band, I have some decisions to make. Obviously I had another butterfly over here. But this will be, I think I put it away and couldn't pull it out because it's another one of those where I just need time to spend thinking about how much more I want to do. Just a reminder, so this is the one, Nest of Petals. I'm going to get a start on this here pretty darn quick. And we have a start, a sale coming up on November 1st. A number of us are going to either start, or we've had a few that have joined because they have it as a work in progress. Amy Loves Toads has this going and she's joined us. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be using the conversion that I got in my recent visit to Keepsakes. This was my memory piece from the store. And so if you want to join us, if you're already stitching it or you want to get a start with us, just let me know. And that's going to be a lot of fun as well. All right, I'm looking, I have no notes because this was everything I had going on. And looking around, I don't have anything else to share. I pulled out a lot of the beautiful things that I have been, just gifted here and there, and made a cute little display with some of my stitchy boxes. And I make these videos for fun, and I love making them. I love all the friendships that I have been blessed with because of Flosstube and Instagram and retreats and just different things like that. So this is a real blessing. Now, my husband is going to share some scripture, as always. He does at the end of every video, and we hope that you will stay. But that's all the stitching goodness that I have for you this time. And next time will be either a regular video, probably just another regular Flosstube, and I'll wait a little bit longer to see if I can do some finishes, and I will try to get some things framed so that I can start sharing with you all of the finishes that I managed in the year 2025. So, all right, that's everything. Everyone, take care. I hope you're enjoying what you're stitching on, and we will talk again soon.
Welcome back. Thank you again for sticking around and allowing me to share some scripture with you today. I wanted to share some verses out of the New Testament about the subject of suffering and trials and tribulation. It's a difficult subject, because the Bible and these verses tells us to count it all joy or to rejoice in those sufferings, but that's very difficult. As we're going through in the midst of them, it is hard. When I know someone that's going through something, I'm not going to start throwing verses at them. We want to show compassion. We want to cry with them. We want to fellowship with them and pray with them and just be there for each other. But ultimately, I do want to share the scriptures with you that talk directly about this, and some of the reasons maybe why we're going through some of the things. So James chapter 1, verses 2-4. James says to count it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its perfect result, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. So one of the reasons that God does allow trials in our lives is to mature us. Ultimately, he wants us to become more and more like his son, Jesus Christ, who obviously went through way more than any of us here are going through. That doesn't minimize the stuff that we're going through, but we have a compassionate high priest that can understand what we're going through now. In Peter, in his first epistle, 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 6 and 7, and Peter again tells us to rejoice. In this you greatly rejoice, even though now, for a little while, if necessary, you have been distressed by various trials, so that the proof of your faith, being more precious than gold, which is perishable, even though tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So another reason that we may be going through certain trials, ultimately is to bring praise and honor and glory as our faith is being tested. Our faith does get tested as we go through trials. And then lastly is Romans chapter 5, verses 3-5. And this is Paul writing. So not only that, but again, Paul tells us to rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into us, into our hearts, through the Holy Spirit who's been given to us. I love that because it, again, it talks about ultimately the hope of heaven, the hope of knowing where we're going to be. And again, this subject, again, it's a difficult subject. I pray that these verses do bless you. I do encourage you, if you are going through trials, if you are going through tribulations, never to forsake the assembling of the saints. Be around brothers and sisters so that we can pray for each other, that we can encourage one another. Again, as I said earlier, to cry with one another, to just be there for each other. So again, I pray that these scriptures blessed you. And thank you again for allowing me to share with you. God bless you all.